The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast ServiceNow series. Our guests today are Amarja Deshpande and Jon Klonsky from HaloKinetic. Jon, Amarja, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So guys, we've got lots to cover, so I want to jump straight in and start with some brief introductions of yourselves. Jon, starting with you, if you could give us a very brief overview of your background in technology and what your journey has been to where you are today, and same from yourself then, Amarja.
My background, it really starts with running and growing tech services companies. I've had an opportunity to have founded 3 of them now, and I've been aligned with a couple of others. A couple of decades of experience, maybe more than a couple of decades, but I still feel very young at heart. And HaloKinetic is the next step in a journey, and we're very excited. We're early stage, but happy to be here and happy to be talking about what it is that we intend to do.
Thank you so much. Amarja?
Yes, thank you so much, JP, for having us here on the podcast. Coming to my introduction, so I am an electronics engineer by profession. So my first job was coding chips and create industrial equipment that helped farmers in India. So it was a startup then. And my first IT job was actually with IBM. That's where I was introduced to the ITIL framework. And after that, IBM decided to adopt ServiceNow as their main infrastructure tool. And of course, that was a great decision. And that's where I got introduced to ServiceNow. I think that was Geneva. And my first project was probably on Geneva version of ServiceNow. And 10 years from there, I'm still loving it. I enjoy every bit of working on ServiceNow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So Jon, coming back to you then, want to jump straight into the work you do at HaloKinetic. So as the co-founder and CEO, tell us all about HaloKinetic, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
So HaloKinetic is a boutique, pure play ServiceNow implementation partner, consulting and implementation partner. We have been around for just over a year, and we aspire to be the best boutique ServiceNow partner in North America. We offer a hybrid work environment. We have talent both in the US and in India. And our go-to-market strategy is really 3 waves, because we acknowledge ServiceNow is doing phenomenally well in the Global 1000, and it seems like they're trying to make more headway into the mid-market. For our start, we're trying to align with some of ServiceNow's goals as a pure play. We like to be able to do that. And we're focusing on the mid-market for the most part today, and probably for the next 18 months. And we are developing a niche with global law firms, which fit nicely into the thesis. We want to be able to do implementations. We want to be able to do them with acceleration. So we're developing some intellectual property around an accelerator that we're calling HK which is the law firm IT fast track accelerator for ServiceNow. We feel that gives us a differentiation point in the ecosystem. When a law firm wants to work with us, we can bring some of the concepts we know about working in that industry to their implementation, and it gives us about a 60% lift in efficiency when we do that work. We then want to follow up with something we're calling HK360, which is a way that we can grow and optimize the solutions. Our thesis is that when you hire experts to do an implementation, it's very hard to match that expertise with internal sourcing of a team. So we want to be able to continuously deliver optimization and growth services through HK360, which it's really derivative of something I used to do in the e-commerce space and in the Microsoft SharePoint space for years. The thesis is the same, and we believe that we have the ideal model for managing that in an ongoing way. So we don't want to just set and forget the implementation that we've done. We want to have a 10 plus year relationship with a client. And so that's how we're going to market initially. We're very excited about that.
And I know, Jon, this is an area that you're leaning heavily on your prior experience, knowing the both sides. One, on the law firm, you've got a great network there, and you know that they're looking to invest in automation and advanced AI. But then also the way in which you're approaching the service offering, focus on long-term partnerships, and all of which is informing those two business decisions. Amarja, I want to come to you from a technical perspective, because obviously you're a long-term veteran in the ServiceNow space, but hearing the objectives that exist at HaloKinetic, specifically on the HK360 and then the Lift Accelerator, how are you going to approach the setup and build of this from a technical standpoint?
Yeah, like Jon pointed out with HK360 and the law firm accelerator, to emphasize on the law firm accelerator, we call it Lift. And what Lift provides is a quick solution to law firms when it comes to workshopping, when it comes to fulfillers and end users. So what we did, we found that so many ServiceNow partners in the ecosystem that are great. We see a lot of financial accelerators. We see a lot of healthcare accelerators out there. But Jon pointed, there's nothing like a law firm accelerator. There's so many law firms that are using ServiceNow and are looking to use ServiceNow. And there was no such thing as a law firm accelerator. And that's was Jon's brainchild. And we started brainstorming and we created this bundle called Lift. So it caters to three main components or personnels. The first personnel is, of course, the end user. When it comes to law firm, it's always the attorneys. The second is the fulfiller who works on their IT requests or tickets. And the third is the business stakeholder. So what we do for all the three of them, starting with end user, the law firm end user are mostly attorneys. Like they're billing for $1,000 an hour. So we tried to minimize their clicks and get them to the solution as quickly as possible. For fulfillers, we make sure the distance between where the request was created and when it's fulfilled is lesser by leveraging ServiceNow best practices in automation. And of course, for the business stakeholders, we reduce the workshop and requirements gathering time by 50% or less by providing them the bundle, like a bundle of catalog items, a bundle of forms and flows that are very beneficial for law firms especially. So that is what Lift is about, and that's, I think, is very innovative, and that's what I think can be a game changer, especially for the law firms.
Excellent. Amarja, I want to stay with you and I want to switch directions slightly. You've obviously got tremendous experience in the ServiceNow space, going all the way back to the early days of Geneva. Thinking about the decision-making process to make the switch to HaloKinetic, obviously Jon has a very successful background being involved in multiple organizations and scaling of growth. But what was it about HaloKinetic that attracted you to this opportunity at this point in your own career? Why would a 10 plus year ServiceNow veteran join a startup of this size?
Yeah, that's a good question. Why does a 10-year-old veteran in ServiceNow join a startup? So that was a question actually was also asked by Kenny and Jon on my interview day when I met them in person. Like, why are you joining us? We're just a startup and you are like 10-year-old veteran in ServiceNow. I've already worked with big corporations like IBM. I've worked with Compicom, the big partners out there. And to that question, my answer is very straightforward. I started my first job, as you can remember, in a startup that helped farmers back in India. And I really love the startup culture. And when I met Jon and Kenny in person, as an aspiring entrepreneur and as an aspiring maybe future startup founder myself, I found that it's so much to learn from Jon and Kenny and all the other amazing teammates I have. And that's when I decided, yes, let's go for it. And when it comes to startup, it's more like a culture that I love. It's like a family. You're working for a common cause to do everything and efficiently do everything to make your startup rise out there in the market. And when it comes to the process, I really love the process. As you can know, you are uh, a staffing firm. The demand for ServiceNow professionals, especially the experienced ones, is very high. So I was interviewing at least 4 or 5 companies at the same time. And the reason I decided to join HaloKinetic is the first reason I already told, like Jon and Kenny and other teammates, amazing. And the other thing is the HR process. So I had to go through 4 or 5 or maybe 6 rounds of interviewing, and each round, it's not just technical, it was based on attitudes as well. So it was based on how you fit in the team. And our HR, yes, she did a great job framing those questions to make sure I not only fit in technically, but I also fit in culturally and I can gel with everyone, because that's ultimately gonna cause a great success when it comes to our startup. That's very important. So I really liked it, because it's also very important to me. Being technically sound is good, but if you have a good attitude towards your work, that's even better. So that's a combination that I was looking for, and that's where I decided to join HaloKinetic, and I'm loving it.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
You've got a good sense of the upward trajectory of Salesforce as a platform or product, and now that we start to lean into Gen AI and the possible use cases, what are some of the standout examples that you're excited about that you hope to work on, and the possible use cases for not just HaloKinetic's customers but the industry as a whole?
When I started working on ServiceNow 10 years ago, working through all the versions, ServiceNow is a powerful tool in itself. It's so powerful. It can help organizations save so much money, and it's so efficient. And when you add AI, the Gen AI functionality to that, it takes it to another level. There's so many use cases that I've seen in the market that we've already started working internally on creating some IPs that could help organizations even more. Recently, my team, our VP of Delivery, Mike, our Director of Solutions Architecture, Casey, Kenny, and Jon, they were at the ServiceNow World Forum in November. That happened in New York in November. And they were so excited, and they were talking to me about the CSM demo that they saw, wherein end user has an issue with his washing machine, and he creates a ticket to replace a part. And from the creation of a request to the stage of a fulfillment stage, it was within seconds. So within seconds, the request was created, and within seconds, it reached the fulfillment stage. So that's the speed you want, not only for fulfillers, but for end users to have it more efficient. Imagine that speed. So I'm very excited. There's so many other ITSM use cases and IPs that we are working on. I can just point out a little bit on that. One use case I find very exciting is the ITSM use case, wherein you can proactively create problems using trends on incidents. So creating proactive problem is very manual at the moment. It is manual. That requires a lot of intervention, and you have to go through all the incidents. You have to find out the recurring incidents, what's the problem, and then you create problems. But what if technology does that for you? Your time is saved. You do not miss out on recurring incidents. You have created proactive problems and you've solved it for your company. It does not happen again. And I think 50 to 60% of the problem is solved right there. So automation in that part is amazing. Virtual agent is amazing. If it is amazing in itself right now, but if it has the Gen AI functionality to it, and it goes to another level. So that's another use case that I find exciting. There's another case wherein that can help the developers as well. So going from low code, no code to added an AI functionality that can help new developers to explore and work on ServiceNow is amazing as well. So these are the use cases I find exciting. And of course, there's so many more to come.
Jon, coming back to you, I know when we were speaking initially several weeks ago about what you're trying to build at HaloKinetic, you talked a lot about leveraging both your prior successes, but taking the same thing that made you successful in all those other companies and applying it to the opportunity that exists in ServiceNow. When you look at the near-term roadmap, particularly the next few years, what's your vision for the growth of HaloKinetic? Where do you see the business going? What are you excited to accomplish?
I feel we can differentiate ourselves a little bit from the rest of the ecosystem, and I'll explain. I'll start out by saying it's impossible to ignore the growth of the ServiceNow platform on a global scale. It's really exciting, and so we're thrilled to be a part of that. We saw this opportunity as outsiders, and now that we're in the space, we're doubling down. I do think really what we want to be is that boutique that everybody wants to work with. I think we're hard to find. It's easy to go out and go to one of the big business process outsourcers, but you don't know what you get with those folks. With the boutique, there's consistency, there's a higher end delivery, and that's the message we want to continuously have, I'd like to say, for the next decade. It is, in terms of differentiation, we believe that in something called bedside manner. That's what we ascribe to. It's a way of working that's outside of customer service. I think people hire us not because they want us to tell them what they want to hear, but they want us to tell them what they need to hear. And it's more like a relationship with a physician. You don't tell your physician what to prescribe, as opposed to somebody who sells you wireless minutes. Not to demean customer service, it's really important, but I don't think it's important in the way you deliver software development. I also think the way that we hire folks and the way we make them feel when they're onboarded is going to be critical for us. I think being able to not make hiring mistakes and be able to retain the great people that we bring in is critical. And we have a methodology for that. That's something we've learned from our mistakes of the past. It's why we have an attitudinal interview and why it's so critical in our hiring. And then just this concept of HK360, it allows us to play the long game with our clients. We don't have to make every engagement the highest margin engagement. It's about creating a mutually beneficial relationship that grows. And if we can show impact, then people will want to continuously receive service from us. And that's something that we intend to do throughout. Also continuing to iterate on the accelerators that we've discussed. I think that's going to be a big piece as we go into other industries, and really to stay on top of just having an orientation around being a best-in-class professional services operation, focusing on our team, our clients, and ultimately our profitability. That's how we're going to sustain. And we're really good at continuously measuring that for ourselves. And that's something that we're going to build into the operation.
So final question for me, Jon, finishing on the plan and your vision. You and I were speaking off air about the growth and so adding some numbers to that. So when we have you back on the show in a few years from now, how big will the company be? What's the objective?
We want to maintain the boutique look and feel, right? So we're expecting to be somewhere between 100 and 140 folks within the next 3 to 5 years. That's how you can continue to run optimally. As we grow beyond that, then things start to change. But for the next 3 to 5 years, I'd say 100 to 140 folks.
Jon, Amarja, thank you both so much for coming on today and talking to us. It was a pleasure to learn about your own backgrounds individually. Great to get the origin story behind HaloKinetic and a real insight into not just the industry verticals that you're targeting, but your approach to the long-term client partnership, and given the opportunity that exists both in ServiceNow, but in those industries that you mentioned, I'm excited to see what you guys can accomplish. So we wish you, the team, and everyone at HaloKinetic the very best of luck. And yeah, look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
JP and Shane and Amarja, thank you so much for joining me, and to JP and Shane, thanks for inviting us to be on.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.